I love your enthusiasm here too.
Okay. So, Professor, I wonder if you want to kick us off, start us off.
Okay, and Saham, are you paying attention just in case other people show up late? Are you in
Yes,
charge of that? I don't have to do that. Okay.
No, that's all me.
Okay, well, so folks, you don't know me yet, but I actually know all of you a little bit already, it turns out. So I'm Professor Heidi Elmendorf. I'm a faculty member in the biology department at Georgetown. I'm the director of the Regents STEM Scholars Program, which is a subset of the Community Scholars Program. So I basically work for Daylin and Davita in like a chunk of my life. And I actually already know a little bit about you because one of the great things I get to do in my role at Georgetown is I get to read admissions files. So I've had the real privilege, and I say that very purposefully, of having the opportunity to read about you, not just through your own words, but also through the words of your teachers and your counselors at your schools. So for me, this is like just a tremendously exciting culmination of like the last 4 months of getting to know you all on paper. And hopefully this is the start of a long relationship between us for at least the next 4 years. But mostly it's a chance for me to be here to help answer any questions you have, because you have important decisions to make. And we hope that Georgetown is a good fit for you because we've already fallen in love with you. But maybe it's not going to feel like the right place for you. And we want to help you understand who we are so that you can make the best decision. Super importantly, though, I'm actually really going to try hard not to answer any of your questions today because there are two science students here who just are so much smarter and better about answering these questions than I am. So I think now I'm turning it over either to Saham or to Ai. I'm not sure which one.
I can go real quick. Yeah. Hi guys. Sorry I can't be on camera today, but lovely to see you all and to have you all here. I am a freshman, so I'm pretty new to this still, but I am a bio major and pre-health and everything. And yeah, that's just like a quick intro to me.
Then hi folks, I'm Saham. You have seen me throughout the weekend. I am a senior in the College of majoring in biology of global health. And yeah, so I've been here a long time, about to on my way out, but yeah, happy to answer any and all questions. Daylin, do you want to introduce yourself as well again for the crowd?
Yes, thank you. I was trying to find my mute button because I'm like in 3 different tabs. So hi everyone, my name is Daylin Moon. I'm the Assistant Director of Academic Success in the Center for Multicultural Equity and Access. So I help support and run all of the academic programming that's coming out of our department. I also advise students, and I also support the Community Scholars Program. And I will also plug, if you are more comfortable dropping a question in the chat and or DM me directly, that works as well. And I can ask out your question out loud and honestly. So looking forward to meeting everyone and hearing your questions.
Oh, cool. I thanks for dropping that one in. Folks, let me just say a couple of quick words about kind of what the shape of STEM at Georgetown looks like, because folks may be here actually with a couple of different paths through Georgetown in mind. So there are a number of STEM, science and math departments within the college at Georgetown. So pretty sure some of you are here through that route. So if you're thinking about being a biology major, biology of global health, like Saham, environmental bio, neurobio, that's in the bio department in the college. Some of you might be interested in majors within the chemistry department, chemistry or biochem, physics department, physics or biophysics, math stuff, and computer science. Some of you may also, though, be interested in, I'm recognizing a few names, I think, who've applied to the School of Nursing and Health Studies. Either we do talk about math, we just, because there's people who love it. But human science, nursing, global health, different and not to be confused with the biology of global health. healthcare management and policy. So that's all in the School of Nursing and Health Studies. And then we also welcome into STEM and to the Regent STEM Scholars Program, folks who maybe don't want to major in it, but are thinking of careers in it. Like you might be interested in being pre-med and going to med school, but thinking that maybe the right major for you at Georgetown is English or theology or, anthropology or something like that. So there's a lot of different science at Georgetown. I think people think because we're in Washington, D.C., it's all about like policy and stuff, and there's tons of policy folks. But actually next to kind of the policy group, science groups of students is the next biggest group of students that we've got on the campus. So lots of different things. And since I've been at Georgetown for 22 years, so Holmes like I've been at Georgetown forever for 4 years, but since I've been at Georgetown for 22 years, even though I'm in the bio department, I'm pretty good at answering questions a little bit across the board. And Saham and II, although they're both from bio, are also just kind of have friends and everything. Oh, and I should have said, Axel, thanks for the question in there. There's also a science group called Science, Technology, and International Affairs in the School of Foreign Service as well. And lots of people minor in STEM. Almost every major I just named, Axel, also in the college at least, also has the ability to minor in it. So you can minor in biology, you can minor in chemistry, you can minor in physics, you can minor in computer science, you could minor in math. Hey, you could still do that one. You could minor in math. And you can minor in, if you're in the college, you can minor in the science, technology, and international affairs. And you can minor in some of the majors in NHS. Sorry, that's a confusing answer, but you can minor in some of them. Maybe a little bit of a starting point, because I find that sometimes this is like classes where everybody like takes a little bit of time to warm up. Saham, maybe would it be a good time to talk a little bit about kind of the start of the Regent STEM Scholars Program? Because if you're in this room, other than possibly being here by accident, it means that you might be sufficiently interested in science that you would just become part of the Regent STEM Scholars Program. And we have like a big tent approach. So if you think you're interested in it, you're part of our Regent STEM Scholars community. If you change your mind in college and you like decide to become an English major, we still think of you as part of the family. We don't ever throw people out of our family. But a number of you might come in through the Regent STEM Scholars Program this summer. So maybe Saham, that's a good starting point.
Yeah, we could do that. I would love if you also give us like a history of the Regent Scholars Program, and like, I think that'd be great because I feel like I could try, but my memory not the best.
Okay, I'll give the 2-second history because I think the history is probably more interesting to me than it is to lots of other people. So if you folks don't already know this, the Community Scholars Program is one of the oldest programs of its kind in the entire country. I think this is the 53rd year that we're wrapping up. Yeah. So it's like ancestral and fabulous. About 6 years ago now, maybe 7, we decided it was long overdue that we actually create a special wing within that program to support students who are interested in the sciences. There's a couple of things about majoring in the sciences that make it just a really hard way to start off, particularly in your college career. So a lot of other majors, you don't have to start in your major, you start taking classes in the core at Georgetown, and they're often really little classes, and it's great. And science majors typically start in science courses, and they're often really big. And we thought that that was just off-putting as a starting point to college. And I'll say it's just off-putting to everybody. It was off-putting to me when I was an undergrad. It's just a terrible thing. So what we wanted to do was to give people who were coming in through the Community Scholars Program like a special part of their summer that's with the Community Scholars Program that also helped really introduce them to the sciences at Georgetown, to get to know each other, people who'll be in your classes, your peers, and to get to know faculty like me, because I teach first-year biology. And so this way, you and I get a chance to know each other and hang out together and eat pizza together and learn science together all summer. The Regent STEM Scholars Program isn't just about the first summer. It's also about opportunities in later summers, lots of science majors might want to take courses in subsequent summers or do research in labs or other internships. And the Regent STEM Scholars Program provides kind of academic and also financial support for you throughout your later summers. So was that good, Saham? Did that cue it up enough for you? There we go.
Yeah. No, I feel like it's always, I also like history, so I always love hearing it. But yeah, I can talk about like, I guess my experience or like my first footing with like science at Georgetown through the Regent Scholars Program. Like I said throughout the weekend, I'm also a community scholar, I'm also a Regent Scholar currently. And I guess when I first started the Regent Scholar Program, like started taking summer classes, I feel like I knew that I wanted to be in science, right? And I feel like, oh, it was that thing. It was like, I'm going to become a doctor. That's going to be the thing. And that's the thing I'm going to run with for the rest of like my life. Throughout my 3 years, I've gotten other things. A lot of things has happened. I got sometimes like pushback when it comes to like getting like certain grades or like other things. But like, I feel like I also learned a lot about other fields that are in medicine that are not being a doctor, which is something that I wish I was told maybe early on, but like I feel like throughout that journey of my almost 4 years here that like I'm glad that I went through that. But yeah, I feel like what was really amazing about being in Regent Scholar, I feel like was actually like doing hands-on things. I feel like in high school, I wasn't able to get a lot of experience doing like being in the lab and like working with like bacterium or like other, just like the exciting things with being in a lab and actually doing stuff, because that's stuff that I've like seen in like TV shows or other things. And I'm like, okay, this is something I'm actually doing. Like we had a whole project where we looked at focusing the microbiome, and we're looking at grapes and like putting stuff, like doing a wet lab. It was just like, it was an experience that I'm so glad I was able to start with and that be my footing, but like also like all the labs throughout in the biology department or any science things, like you do things hands-on. It's not like, where in high school, at least for me, like we watched videos, like we talked about it, but it's like, these were like hands-on experiences. And I was like, oh, I'm so fortunate that I was able to do that even before I stepped foot as like an official freshman on campus. I'm seeing a question, sorry, I get distracted so easily. Okay, first, Amanda, if you want to answer this question about.
Yeah, Anna Delia. Am I saying this right? Anna Delia. I always want to be careful I say people's names right.
No, yeah, you're pronouncing it right. It's
Okay.
Anna Delia. So just sort of like break them apart in the Anna and then Delia and then just bring them together.
Anna Delia.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So question's a good one. So so we would definitely include psychology. I think you're right. Your question's like a really smart question because psychology is kind of like considered half in the sciences if it's like the neuro end of it, and then there's kind of more of a social or community psychology side that thinks of themselves more as social sciences. And our psych department is kind of split between those two. Also, we've got faculty on both halves, but we certainly have plenty of folks who are Regent STEM scholars who are also in the psych department. And that's a pretty common thing. A lot of people pair biology and psych actually also in one way as majors and minors.
Okay, thank you.
We have another question in the chat. And so I think this would be lovely for our students to answer. What have been some defining experiences as young women in science?
That is a question, a deep question. It can be deep, it can be a lot of things. Because I'm gonna talk about it in like two ways. It's like, I'm not only a woman, I'm also a Black woman. So that goes hand in hand when I'm doing my experiences as a person in science, right? Like there are not a lot of like Black women, especially also me being visibly Muslim as well. That's another add-on that I have when I'm navigating through my time here at Georgetown. But I know one thing, even though like when I enter a room, maybe I might not see a lot of people that look like me, even though that is the case, I still have this strong network of friends who have similar backgrounds of me that went through the same struggles that I'm going, that I keep as a strong network as my time at Georgetown. Like the people that I met during my community scholars who were in my science classes that I'm still really good friends with today. Like we went through all these science classes together. We all struggled together. We all succeeded together. It was like these group of like such amazing, smart, like women, Black people, like all us, like our excellency. Sorry, words. I'm like getting a little emotional too because it was such like a journey. You know, sometimes like you don't succeed in everything and that's okay. I feel like that's a lot of lessons that I've learned, but like having a strong network and like connecting with other people, that has really like defined who I am today in regards to being science. There are many times where I believe that I could not continue being in sciences, that I was like, I can find something else. I'm passionate about other things, but like, I know that I love science and that's something that I want to continue doing, like, and all that. But yeah, I don't know if I wants to add on to that in any way.
I think II maybe
Oh,
has her phone hijacked by the Apple desk people, as far as I can tell at the moment. So I can say a little bit about this question though also. I think Georgetown is actually a relatively rare space in that we're actually a majority female faculty place. So that's definitely true. The bio department is about 70 something percent female students, and also on the faculty end, it's predominantly a women faculty department, which is really unusual. It's not predominantly women in the other science departments, but it's pretty close to 50-50. So we're actually like a kind of from a gender perspective, we're actually relatively diverse. As Saham mentioned, we're less diverse in terms of race or ethnicity, and that's true among the faculty as well. But that's actually a big hiring push for Georgetown at the moment. I think I want to make sure II has a chance to also kind of answer this when she's able to get back on. I'm sure I'm going to say this one wrong. So Sano, how do I pronounce your name properly? Sano. Okay, great. Yeah, so we have, so there's lots of students at Georgetown who don't major in science, but who are pre-health of one type or another. And pre-health is huge. I think when Saham also said she wasn't, it's like medicine, does it actually have to be medicine? Also, what people realize is that like there's a lot of ways to be in medicine and not be the doctor. So we have tons of students at Georgetown who have a very broad notion of pre-health, including pharmacy school. And you can definitely do those requirements and major in other things in the college or even in other schools. You can be pre-med or pre-health, and there's fewer of them. So no, you won't find a bajillion with you in this business school, but you'll definitely find a few. And ironically, the business school and the science building are next door to each other. So you will also find yourself in a happy cluster on campus. Oh, goodness, you've got great questions. Okay, I'm going to let Saham or II answer this next one.
I will go with this. Oh, good. I feel like I grew as a person where I'm more like confident when I'm doing my work. I feel like Mr. Amadov can probably see when I was like, I first came here, I was very shy and very like, I don't know. I didn't want to talk to anybody or do like, it was just, I don't know. But I feel like as I gone through, I feel like when I know, like, I gained this confidence that I know that I belong in the classroom, right? Because it's this thing like, all of you guys are such amazing students. Y'all gone to Georgetown. Y'all did the work to do this, right? So that's something that is to be remembered, right? You didn't get here on accident. You have so many things that you've done for your community, that you've done, like showed how smart you are in the classroom. It's just, that's something that I know I had to tell myself over and over again while I was in the classroom, because sometimes it didn't feel like that, right? It felt like when I entered, I was just like, oh, other people know a lot more than me. I'm just gonna sit back. But then like, I was like, no, this is my education, right? I'm gonna make the most out of this and like continue on this path and try to get it through it, right? But yeah, like sometimes like I feel like I'm trying to see if I can also answer this question, but so I feel like at Georgetown, I feel like it's not like people, at least I haven't experienced, people don't take you seriously. I feel like sometimes I feel like for me at least, was more like me. I didn't think that I was able to do things right, because it's not like at Georgetown, everybody is like so smart, so talented. That's the thing, right? Like we all, at least for me, my background, like when I was in high school, like I was like top of the class. Like I knew I was like getting A's and all that, and coming here, like, oh, all these people are also coming from schools where like maybe they're valedictorian, like they got straight A's, or like their GPA was a 4.0, right? But I also feel like when you get into like, I guess, higher levels of like science classes, like it's not like people don't take you seriously. I feel like you feel more comfortable in the space, right? You feel more comfortable saying things in class, raising your hand and all that. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question in totality, so no, but that's just my thing. Yes. Oh, we also have a hand raised. Also, y'all don't have to raise your hand. Y'all can just also unmute yourself, say your question.
Okay, actually, it's not necessarily a question. I just wanted to like add on to that, because even though, of course, obviously, I don't know what it's like at Georgetown, because I'm not in Georgetown yet. But in general, I would say that it's really important to remember, like how you were saying, how to remember that you did do the work. And that's something that I struggle with myself. I think we mentioned it earlier with the imposter syndrome, that it's something that everybody goes to. I was recently in a mini program with GVSU students, and which is a smaller school around me, but they had like a whole session on imposter syndrome, and it's like everybody has it. Like you're going to, if you see around any person, they are experiencing the same thing, because it's like it's sort of a natural thing that humans do. Like we tend to bring ourselves down, especially as women, because we are so used to hearing that in society that it naturally even comes to us, like to ourselves. So I feel like it's just really important to remind yourself that every day, that you worked just as hard. If anything, you worked harder because you are a woman. So you worked hard, like you deserve where you are. And personally, giving yourself like affirmations every day has helped me, because it's a reminder every single day. And it's like, I don't know if you've heard like, oh, like fake it till you make it. Like if you don't believe your affirmations when you're first doing them, like that's okay, just keep going, keep doing them, because eventually you will, like you become what you think. So it's like just keep going, like keep trying to like tell yourself and remind yourself that you deserve to be there as much as everybody else is. So just, I don't know, I feel like it has a lot to do with yourself and the way that you're thinking of the situation. So just prioritize yourself, because it's important.
And Delia, I'm so glad that you like felt comfortable speaking up for that. So imposter syndrome is real. And I don't know, maybe this might be depressing to folks, but at some level, it doesn't really go away, right? Every time I take a new step in my career, I find myself trying to figure out if I actually belong in that new place I'm in with that new role that I have. And so I think figuring out how you like find it in yourself, and how you like draw on the network around you, how you build a strong network and draw on the strengths of that support network, that's like an ongoing thing in life. And so I think one of the things that we really value at Georgetown is providing that sort of a network. And that's one of the really phenomenal strengths of the Community Scholars Program, is that there's not just all of you, but then there's tons of people like Daylin and myself and Davida and Charlene and Obella and like everyone you're meeting. We all know each other. We all talk all the time, for better or for worse. We all talk all the time. And so there's a really strong network that you can turn to when you find it hard within yourself, right? Because it's one thing to say, like, oh, you should find it within yourself, but that can be hard sometimes. And we pride ourselves on building that network at Georgetown. I'll also say, again, I said this at the outset, like, I read your files. I've read admissions files for Georgetown for ages. We didn't let most people who applied in. We let you in because you are astonishing individuals with absolutely remarkable potential. We want you at Georgetown because we want to learn from you as much as we hope that you learn from us. We think that we're going to be better if you join us. That's just 100% true statement. It's not an accident that you got in. There were a lot of people who read files. It wasn't like, oh, Professor Elmendorf, well, she was just having like a weird day and like accidentally let me in. It's like actually not how it works. There's like whole committees who read everybody's work files, and everybody has to want to let you in for you to get in. Everybody has to be utterly convinced of your remarkable worth as an individual. So you're here on the screen today because we're utterly convinced that we'll be better if you're part of our community. Again, you got to figure out for you kind of what the right piece is. But yeah, there's no accidents in the admissions process at Georgetown like this, folks. You've done great things, and you've often done them under challenging circumstances. And we are, yeah. Saham and I know me really well. Like, this is my like legit, like that smile, that's like who I am inside. Because this and you are everything.
Ooh, I see this question in the chat. Oh, unless I saw to Jennifer. I see you unmuted if you want to ask a question. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so I'm going to school of nursing and health studies, and I'm gonna major in human science. And I think one thing that I guess like I didn't really see that many like people majoring in that or like in that school throughout this week, and I was wondering like how could I contact them, or if you guys know any experiences from there and stuff like that.
Actually, today during a coffee chat, we have some NHS folks. So if you tune in, I know one, Binky Chan. I love her. Yeah, she's gonna be there, and she's an amazing person to talk to about NHS stuff. So
Binky's just an amazing person. You should just talk to Binky about like being alive on the planet right now, but and human science. That would be a good thing too. Jennifer, I'd say a couple quick things about it. So the human science major is actually a little bit of a smaller major. Bio is actually a much bigger major. But if you talk to anybody in human science, and I can also give you the name of a couple of really great faculty from the human science, if you want that perspective, they think that's like a major strength because it's a smaller major. There's a lot of one-on-one attention for students. And so, but it is a little bit smaller. So you're going to like encounter like bulk wise a few fewer people around. But the size of the major translates, I think, really well for student experiences. And you still join us like in the summer in the Regent STEM Scholars Program and things like that. So you're still part of the Regent STEM Scholars family.
I want to highlight a question from the chat. It says, hi, this is from a rule. Please correct me if I'm mispronouncing your name. I'll be a student in the MSB, but I've studied artificial intelligence throughout high school and would like to continue to study computer science at Georgetown. What opportunities are there to double major across schools? Is it possible to create your own major or minor?
So yeah, so I answered that a little bit in the chat, but just generally, double majoring is always possible. You have to be a little careful with schedules because, you know, a bunch of courses. Minoring and stuff, I don't know, the average Georgetown student has like 12 and a half minors. I know it's like a joke, but but at least one minor. Across schools is usually completely fine. There aren't barriers to that. It's really just a question of like your schedule and fitting stuff into your schedule. There's also time, folks, for study abroad. That's a big thing at Georgetown. And that's not a financial barrier for things at Georgetown. We like figure out about how to make financial aid and things work under all of those circumstances. So yes, lots of students who get into Georgetown have a lot of diverse intellectual interests, and it's good to support those.
Thank you.
Okay,
There's also a question here about interesting science classes that you've taken.
I was about to answer that one. I'm trying to think, classes are fresh in my mind. Even this past semester, even like online, one of my favorite classes I've taken, it's genomics, disability, and health. So like my thing is that like I also love science, but I also love social justice and talking about like the combination of that two being a thing. And I'm like, that class is amazing. I love genomics. I love learning. We learned so much about like 23andMe and like why people shouldn't do that, and like just the history of genomics, and and the intersectionality of like the racism in there and like other things, and like how my professor, Professor Peshkin, amazing. I love her so much. She's so great. And we're able to like also do case studies, right? And like we're like given like prompts about like, okay, now you're a genetic counselor. This couple came to you, like, what are you doing? It was like a lot of like real life stuff, which I really enjoyed. That you also get to see once you get into higher levels of like biology, which I really love. Yeah, that's just one of the many. Another thing, I'm also in like a special program as a senior. It's called Rise, and so it's like a thing where like students are able to like do projects and like write like a thesis or case study during like their senior year. And I'm doing a special one called Rise and Teach, which Professor Elmendorf also has started, and it's an amazing program that I'm so glad to be part of, because it also does that intersection of like social justice and science, right? Like I'm able to be in a DC classroom helping teaching science and also doing an inquiry project about something that I'm really passionate about. Like I'm looking at educational disparities in science, right? I'm able to talk to admin at the school that I'm working on, talk to students about their educational journey and how they're navigating their like being a student. And because I'm working with adults, so this is like it's not just the typical high schoolers. These are adults that are coming back to school. So that's like, I really love doing, because I love talking to folks and like being in the classroom, also teaching science. I'm teaching earth science, which is something I never thought I would be able to teach, but it's going well and all that. So those are two little things that I have been in, like classes I've been in, but I also can talk a lot more. I've also taken other classes in other departments that I also go on and about, but yeah.
I dropped it back in the chat, but so no, I'll just also clarify. If you're community scholars and you're science oriented, then you're just automatically part of Regent STEM scholars. We just pick up those folks. We also pick up folks kind of just forward in life also. So Regent STEM scholars, students are in CSP, but don't know they're interested in science till like, sophomore year, will like bring you in. A bunch of times folks will recommend people to me. They'll be like, Professor Elmendorf, this is person in my class, and they're even not a part of community scholars, but I think they'd be a good fit for Regent STEM scholars. And it's like, cool, we invite them in. You get in because you're fabulous and interested in science, and yeah, that's about it. So again, we're just a Big Ten program. I think science is a team sport. And we know, and I mean by we know, we mean like people have actually done studies on this, that the best science is done by the most diverse science teams. So there's actually people who've studied this, and the more diverse the team is who's doing the science, the better, more groundbreaking the science is. So we're super keen to have Regent STEM scholars be just really like community scholars, this very inclusive, supportive environment.
I have a question. It's related to Hoya Saxa weekend in general though. So I had signed up for the Michigan Spring, like basically just to the Zoom with Georgetown to see other people from Michigan, because I'm from Michigan. But it starts at 2. So I was just wondering, the diversity out of the classroom that starts at 2:30 for the Hoya Saxa weekend, is that a panel type of style? Or is it sort of like this?
It's more panel style. I don't know if you're unable to go, like we have it recorded, so you also have it in your back pocket. You can look at it anytime, but like it's going to be just talking with like health education services, CAPS and all that, but that also will be all recorded. So it's not like it would be more panel style then.
Okay.
That we're in now.
Okay, yeah, because I wanted to go to the Michigan,
Yeah, of course.
name of it. But yeah, I really want to go to the Michigan Spring Reception, and it starts in 5 minutes. So
Yeah,
I was just
we're happy they were able to join us.
Okay.
Also say
I'll
for
come back
anybody on here, I'm gonna drop my name and my email in the chat. And I know this is true for other folks as well. Just go ahead and like write us if you have other questions, because you know, sometimes even if you're here at these things, this comes up. Hey, so no, we should get the students to answer your question. But the one thing that I would say about this is that at one point in time, in a way that I actually try really hard to keep remembering, I was also a student making the jump from high school to college. And I was too scared to talk to a professor for my first couple of years. I didn't go to office hours. I didn't talk to any professors because I was just intimidated by everybody around me. And so like all of us who now look like the adults who kind of know everything and whatever, we were you once upon a time. And the reason we teach is because we love talking to students, right? So, I mean, I know it's different because I'm the professor, but like I'm a professor because I want to talk with all of you. So maybe that's a place to find the courage to do it, is that like I've chosen this job because I want to talk to students, not like, and then I have to talk to students with an eye roll, right? Like, this is what I do because of the conversation that I want to have with you, Sano, about your major. And yeah, I roll much less than anybody else I know. So like definitely start with me.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit on the student perspective because I'm also very just like the beginning. I was like, I am afraid to walk in this person's office. I was like, like any professor, I know one thing that I did, I would go with friends or like a friend from the class and just be like, hey, let's go together. And like, we'll have like one question set up. So when we go, it's not like, it's weird, but like Professor Elmander said, like they want to talk to us, right? The professors, they really want to engage with folks. And it also gets easier as you get into smaller classes. Like you get to like talk more in class and professor gets to know you a little bit more in that classroom setting. So that like what propelled me to feel more comfortable going to like office hours for professors like on my own. But like one thing that I still do, I always come up with like one question and like, okay, this might pertain about today's lecture or something I did, so I can do that. And then if I want to like learn more about their research, just learn about like how they got to where they do what they're doing now, like I roll that afterwards. I'm like, oh, I was always interested in like this and that like starts a conversation and then it gets comfortable. So it's like not as weird going through office hours again. Like for me, I always do a little mini like prep talk before I go into office hours. Like, hey, Saham, you're gonna do this, you're gonna go, it's gonna be fine. If it's awkward, it's okay. We'll roll with it, right? But yeah.
We also, most faculty know how to fill the gaps, the awkward gaps, right? I mean, I do have a whole bunch of first year students. So to be clear, I've taught somewhere now close to 5,000 students at Georgetown. So you wouldn't be the first person to show up in my office hours a little tongue-tied and sit at my table and just like look at me helplessly and look like deer in the headlights look. And then I know, right? It's just scary. But I'm pretty good at office hours small talk, and a lot of faculty are. So even if you get tongue-tied, we'll like ask you where you're from and if you've got a pet and your family and like, you know, how you and your roommate are getting along. And like, really, there's like an endless amount of small chat that we can do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good question. I know that I wish I had a little bit more confidence when I first started, but you know, we grow, we move. Trying to see if there are other questions that folks have. If not, I know there. Oh, Dalen, you're gonna say something?
I was gonna say this might be a good for the group, and this is a question that comes up a lot in other spaces too. But if a student is struggling in a class, what do resources look like? What services are available? Or are there tutoring And I think from a student's perspective, like, how would you go about getting that extra support?
Yeah. Well, I'm not new to struggle. That's if that's one thing. No, jokes aside, but I know through GSP, I know if folks remember through that, like there's tutoring services that they're able to like help pay for. That's like one avenue, and it's a really great resource. I've definitely used it when it comes to like hard science classes in order just to get that extra help. But there's also like office hours, right? Going fresh to office hours. But I know sometimes that can be like, they can be overcrowded and other things, right? I feel like one thing that I do is just like there's also TAs for a lot of these science courses. Like one TA, her name is Vicky. Professor Elmendorf knows. Like literally, Vicky was my savior during like the time that she was here. Every time I had any questions, I'd be like, "Hello, you've been through this, right?" And like other TAs in other classes too, they're also this very like, hey, I have office hours this week. You want to come? Like I'm in like Regents on the 3rd floor, just sitting on the couch. Come chat with me if you need help with like lab or need help with anything in pertains to class, right? I feel like taking that step, I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't need that. I can study on my own. Sometimes it's okay to ask for help. That's another thing that I learned as well. Like you think, oh, like I did this all by myself in high school. I don't need anyone to help me. I can do it. But sometimes you need that extra push. You need that extra help just to like get yourself situated, right? Because it's like you can't deal with everything on your own, right? There's a support network here for you at Georgetown, right? Like getting here is like one step in the journey, but like going through all the classes and like getting that diploma at the end of those 4 years is another journey, right? So I feel like another thing is like also studying with people in the class, right? I feel like a lot of things that I've learned is like having study groups with people who would be all sitting in like lavender, the library, and we might know different parts of what we're supposed to know and we teach each other. And that's like a whole thing. We're like, okay, I don't understand how this works. And someone's like, oh, I can explain that. And also, and like they explain it, I'm like, okay, now I might get it. And let me try to explain it to somebody else, right? And all that. So those are just some things, but use resources around you. They're here, they're there for you, right? Whether it be TAs or professors or TF teaching fellows and all that.
Let me also say one quick thing. I hear this from students all the time that they're hesitant if they're not doing well in my class. They're hesitant to come see me because then like I'll know they're not doing well. But I already know when students aren't doing well in my class. It's like my job as a professor. It's part of my job. And like the students I desperately want to talk to are the ones who are struggling a little bit. Because again, remember, we've welcomed you into Georgetown because we know you can be successful. And part of what we really want to do is connect with folks who are just not yet finding their way forward to help them figure out how to be successful. But like I have to be able to meet with students. So I think sometimes students are like, I just didn't want to come to you until I was successful. And it's like, no, you don't get it. That's like the backwards way around. Like come to me and I can help you be successful. I like want you in my class and I want you to be successful. But it'd be really weird if I showed up at your dorm room, right? So you kind of have to show up at my office. That's a whole thought. I haven't ever like actually done that to a student, right? But like that would just be weird. So you have to come to office hours. That's like how it works. But yeah.
And like I guess this also pertains to that subject. I feel like when it comes to struggling, like or like getting your first bad grade in a science class, I feel like that's something that I was like shook when I came in. I was like, oh, like I've got A's in all my science courses in high school. That is, I know everything about science. And then sometimes like it's a thing that can happen. And if it does, like it's not the end of the world, right? I remember getting like a bad grade and I was looking at it and I was like, okay, this is like the end of the world. Like I can't become a doctor, right? Like this is organic chemistry is like, like it's hard, but it's like, it's not the end of the world. I can tell y'all, like I finished Orgo, we passed the class, like it's a memory, right? But it's not going to define who you are as you continue in the sciences, right? Like some things, like everyone has their strengths, everyone has their weaknesses, and it's okay to acknowledge that, right? And it's as long as like we continue like to improve and try to like figure out, it's like, okay, this is maybe the way I'm studying is not the right way to study, right? Maybe the way I studied throughout high school is not the best way. Let's try to find other ways to try to approach the subject, right? That's something that I've learned. The way that I study in high school is not the way I study now. That is most definitely the case. But don't let that bad grade off put you and make you think that you can't continue in these, right? Because I definitely have gotten a few, and I'm about to be graduating with this degree. So it's like, it's possible, right? So yeah.
There was a question in the chat from earlier, and it reads, have you met any leading figures in science? And so I'm not sure if, so no, I'm not sure if you mean pertaining to the classroom or generally at Georgetown. I also know Georgetown has like a really good history of bringing some phenomenal people to campus in general anyway, science related or not. So yes, I would love to hear perspectives.
So now I'm not sure this is actually what you meant by your question, but one of the things I'll say is that the famous Vicky, whom Saham referenced, is going to be a famous scientist one day. So she was a Regent STEM scholar like 5 years ago now. She was not on the Zoom screen because like it was like the olden times, you know, but like a new student. She was struggling. She didn't do well in some of her early classes. She's now in a PhD program at University of Pennsylvania, one of the top programs in the country. And it took about 3 years before she thought she was as remarkably fabulous a scientist as I thought she was all along. So one thing we do is we grow great scientists. But also one of the ways that Vicky fell in love with science is she started coming. So all the science departments at Georgetown, including in our medical center, which is attached, it's like 3 minutes away from the main science building. Every department on campus hosts scientists from around the country and the world every week to come and give seminars. So if you're on campus, you don't have to be a science major, you can go to any of those talks. And we've literally hosted people on campus who've won like Nobel Prizes in science. And so, and that's just when you go to college, that's one of those phenomenal resources, I think, is there's so many great talks by leading people in every possible field. So I'm not sure that's what you meant by the question, but it's this like really cool resource that I think sometimes, because it's not a required part of the curriculum, maybe not enough students take advantage of.
I also maybe want to hear more from people, like the prospective students, maybe like put in like what school, what major you're in the chat, or say it out loud. Like I just want to also get a feel about what people are thinking they want to get into once they come to Georgetown. You know that. I know Jennifer said NHS Human Science, right? Yeah. And I know we have one MSB person here chilling with us. You know, we love the MSB too. Ooh.
Oh, that. Excellent. That's sweet. That's awesome. And you're going to find a bunch of folks taking similar, if not identical paths. So because economics is pretty math heavy, there's a lot of econ major math minors, and we're Georgetown, so econ and government are like this. There's a ton of folks around also. It's a really vibrant, dynamic, tons of students, great faculty combination you've got rocking.
And you're able to meet some folks in our coffee chat today, plugging that again. Some econ, some math people, you know. Yeah. I don't know, math just scares me. That's just me. I don't know. It's a weird, like math was okay in high school, but I feel like one of my roommates, she's an econ major, and I don't know how she does it. I just see graphs and I'm just like, that's amazing. And then she looks at my stuff. She's like, I don't know how you do that. And I'm like, oh, it's mutual. It's a thing. Um, what exactly is oh yeah, so in one of the schedule I feel like admission sent, it's just we're gonna have a bunch of students from different majors and different schools be like in multiple breakout rooms on Zoom, and you're able to jump around, talk to different people in different majors and different schools and just learn about their experiences in their major, in their school, and just chat with them a little bit. So that is where you're gonna have some like more like Q&A with just students. So Calc 2. Yeah, that's why I only took Calc 1. I could not continue and do Calc 2 here. But
I think, Snow, you'd asked this before about like how you talk to faculty. So one of the reasons I love teaching intro bio is because my first 2 years of college, my absolute worst grades were in biology, like my absolute worst grade. And I loved biology, and it just took me a while to figure out how to learn it in college. It wasn't anything like my high school bio class. And that didn't mean I loved it less, but yeah. So the fact that you're like interested in like maybe minoring in math and doing math stuff, and then like Calc 2 makes you want to cry. Same, but for me it was bio. And I definitely did cry a bunch. Hands down. I'll also say I had a couple of private chats to me, questions about being pre-med and kind of the support and success rate for pre-med. So let me just say kind of broadly, there's a pretty strong, vibrant pre-health community on our campus. Again, not just pre-med. There's support from the dean's office. There's an entire pre-health office. There's a fabulous group of undergraduates that lead an undergraduate pre-health community. And so there's a lot of support because we have a med school right on our campus. There's a lot of like cross activity between the med school and undergrads, and the programs that they run to support students in medical school and getting into medical school, and us. So there's a lot of kind of built in. I think it's actually one of the real advantages of Georgetown of having a med school right on our campus, is there is that like connectivity. Lots of Georgetown students who go to med school don't go to Georgetown Med, but a bunch do, but it's also just broadly supportive. Everyone always wants to know what percentage of kids get into med school. And the answer is like, I don't know, it's kind of complicated because not everybody goes straight to med school. And so it's harder to keep track of people who go off and do like Teach for America 2 years and then decide to go back to med school and things. But basically, if you can get into Georgetown and you make it through the pre-med curriculum at Georgetown and come out the far side of it, then you can get into medical school, because Georgetown's a really highly respected school and the sciences at Georgetown are really highly respected. So it's really becomes a question of like you and your choices, as Saham was saying, for like your career and what you want to do, less than like there's all these other barriers. There's a lot of med schools, some will let you in, some won't let you in, and things like that. But like going to med school is a phenomenon.
I guess to talk more about like the communities on campus when it comes to like pre-med, because I'm technically still pre-med. Here we are. But yeah, one of the organizations that I love is specifically for minority students. So Georgetown University Minority Association for Pre-Health Students, aka GUMAPS. I was actually a board member this year. I was a board member, I think, last year. But yeah, what I love about GeoMaps is like all the opportunities that I was able to like be a part of, go to conferences on like in different parts of the country, just talk about being pre-med, getting resources, getting like a free MCAT book, which I still have. It's collecting dust a little bit, but it's still, I really appreciate getting stuff, having speakers come. Even during the pandemic, they had like webinars with doctors that talked about their journey, right? I feel like there's, I feel like it's called Shapes, is one of the mentorship programs. You get paired with like a medical school student at Georgetown Med, and you get to talk to them about like their journey to med school, right? There's so many, and it's just for people of color, it's for women, it's for people that are not at the forefront currently when it comes to like in medicine, right? There offers so many opportunities for you to get more and get ahead, right? So yes. Oh, that's their Instagram. You should follow them. They're great. But yeah. And also, there's a pre-med society. I'm not part of that, but I know it's another community that's on campus. There's also other STEM-related groups. I know there's one for engineers, or people want to go that path as well. I feel like there is a physics club, I think, that started recently in the past year. But yeah, there's a lot of like communities that are science oriented, whether it be pre-med or just be for specific like majors like physics and all that. So yeah.
Daylin, are we supposed to like wrap things up here? Is this the idea, so students get a break? I'm like trying to pay attention to our timing here.
Time.
Yeah. Big segue. So I dropped in the chat our evaluation form. And so if you can do us a huge favor and fill that form out, that would be lovely. We are huge nerds in CMEA, and we love data, and we love looking at data, and we also love hearing from you all. So if you like today's session, if you've liked previous sessions, feel free to fill out our evaluation form and let us know. And if there's stuff that we can improve on, please let us know, because that is super, super important to us so that we can continue to improve how we do Hoya Saxa Weekend and how we also present information for you all as you make this decision. So yeah, with that being said, thank you so much for coming out. It was lovely getting to know everyone, getting to hear all of your fantastic questions. I'm always amazed every time we do this. Y'all come in hot with the good questions. So keep it going, take it into the next room. I also dropped the link for the diversity outside of the classroom session that'll be happening in a couple minutes, because I can't remember exactly when it starts. But yeah, we'll hang back tight a little bit if you all have like